So the turntable feature in Illustrator came out last month, and it kind of got me thinking about what features that I would like to see for Illustrator in the future. So I thought that I would just make a video to take you guys through the kind of things that I would like to see from Illustrator in 2026. Now, the first thing that I would really like to see would be real-time collaborative working. Not that I've got anyone to collaborate with because I just work by myself most of the time. Absolutely great start to the video, Nathan.
Hey everyone, I'm already crying.
But I think this would just be a really cool addition. Now, it kind of baffles me as to why Illustrator doesn't have this feature already because Photoshop actually already has it. I don't think this would have been too difficult to implement in Illustrator as well, considering that both Illustrator and Photoshop have very similar foundations. But for some reason, because Photoshop is the more popular of the two software, Photoshop gets all of the new features and all of the bells and whistles. Even though Illustrator is literally Adobe's first software product that's still going to this day. That actually might come as a shock to most of you. Even though Photoshop is the most popular software and the most well-known, Illustrator was actually their first piece of graphic design software.
No, it's true. It's true.
Now, another example would be Figma. Figma also has real-time collaborative working, and I feel like if Adobe did move forward with that acquisition of Figma, then we would already have it in Illustrator. But in a way, I'm kind of glad that Adobe didn't acquire Figma because I feel like they would have run it into the ground. Now, one way that Figma does this really well that I'd like to see implemented in Illustrator if collaborative working came about would be the comment system. Each designer working on a Figma document can kind of leave like a floating bubble comment on the canvas. And if the comment was about some sort of design issue or some sort of feedback, you can even resolve the comment which just clears it from the canvas. It's a really good way to make sure that all the designers that are working on a project are on the same page, no pun intended. And your clients can also be invited to the Figma document as well, so it's a really good way to keep them engaged in the design process. Now, if that was in Illustrator, I would have such an easier time of convincing my clients of my design decisions, and would probably be signing them off first time, every time. Now, the second thing that I would like to see from Illustrator would just be some optimization. Now, I don't know about you guys, but every time I open Illustrator, the fonts that I have installed from Adobe Fonts just aren't there. So you have to do the song and dance of opening Creative Cloud and then closing and opening Illustrator again to make sure that the fonts refresh and are available to use, even though supposedly I've got the fonts installed already. Make that make sense. Why can't my fonts just be installed when they say they're installed?
Be nice. I'm finding it. It take you that long to find it? It does.
Now, you might not think this is a big deal, but it's the little things that add up over time and create massive amounts of friction. Like, I don't want to be interrupting my workflow in order to fix a problem that shouldn't even be there in the first place. And while we're on the topic of optimization, I just feel like Illustrator has a lot of general performance issues as well. Now, I have a pretty high-end gaming PC, but I feel like Illustrator just lags for me a lot, even when doing like the simplest of tasks. Like, even just opening up a document can sometimes take like 30 seconds, and this will be like a blank document, I'm not even kidding. Now, I'm sorry to keep bringing up Figma again, but it's just a really good example of how optimized a piece of software can be. Because if you don't know, Figma actually just runs in the browser, and I literally have like no issues at all with Figma. It's so buttery smooth. So if Figma can do it in the browser, why can't Adobe do it in a dedicated piece of software? Oh wait guys, I kinda know why. It's just because they're filling Illustrator with all this AI bloatware that literally nobody wants, instead of actually optimizing their software. Now, the next thing I'd really like to see implemented into Illustrator is some improved font adjusting tools. Now, yes, I know the pencil tool is fantastic, and the feeling of getting a font just right after doing lots of smoothing is just a feeling that you cannot beat.
Yeah, boy.
Now, even I'll admit that it can take a ridiculously long time to achieve the effect that you want, and sometimes you can get lost in making a lot of minor adjustments and a lot of smoothing. So I'm going to propose this new tool called the Font Shaper tool. Adobe, you will have to pay me if you want this.
And
I'm thinking something similar to the Puppet Warp tool that just doesn't mess with the proportions of the letters. So you could easily do something like change the way your descenders look without having to worry about a change in thickness. Because that's the one downfall of the pencil tool, is that sometimes you think you've got it just right and then you zoom out and the letter thickness is just uneven and mismatched. But with something like my font shaper tool, you could just highlight the areas that you wanted to change and just click and drag to adjust them. I don't really know, it's not my job to implement it, I'm just coming up with ideas here. Or maybe there could even be like a drawing function where you draw new accents onto letters and it can give you some preset suggestions on what you want to achieve. So I could draw like a new loop on a G and it could give me some suggestions on how I want it to look. And then I could just pick one and I'll have a foundation in order to start using other tools to make micro adjustments. Just something that makes editing fonts that little bit easier, you know? And I think like a tool like this would make font adjusting a lot more accessible and easier to get into. Now, the last thing I would like to see for Illustrator, and to an extent Photoshop and InDesign, is one app integration. And of course, this is directly inspired by Affinity because their suite of apps is all integrated into one piece of software. Now, this would do absolute wonders for workflow because instead of having to hop between apps, you could just switch to a different view and have a new set of tools. It would honestly just speed up my work process so much and alleviate a lot of pain points that I have with hopping between different pieces of software. But at this point, it's just a bit of a pipe dream because, as I mentioned previously, Illustrator and the other Adobe apps aren't optimized terribly well. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, I don't really think Adobe could handle having all of these apps integrated into one piece of software. Like, it really just couldn't happen. Like, no, like all of the softwares would just pitch a fit and just wouldn't work. And actually guys, I don't even think Adobe would want this to happen because, hear me out. Let's say Adobe put InDesign, Illustrator and Photoshop into one piece of software as a complete package, right? I think the average consumer would just expect the price of that integrated software to be the same as it currently is for one piece. So this new integrated piece of software would just be the same price as, let's say, Photoshop is right now. Which is to be expected, right? Because they'll see that it's one piece of software, and rightly so, expect to pay the same price as they think one piece of software should cost. Which is not unreasonable, right?
Got it!
But right guys, I can totally see Adobe merging the cost of this software, or even putting this extra price tag on it because it's this sort of super software.
Unacceptable!
Like honestly, I wouldn't put it past them, they're just so greedy. So greedy. So yeah, this is probably something that we'll never get, but one can only dream. But yeah guys, those were the things that I would like to see implemented for Illustrator, even though most of those things are kind of just out of reach. Notice how nearly all of the things that I've just discussed are just things that should alleviate pain points and not really anything new. I wonder what that says about the state of Adobe at the minute. If you have any suggestions on features that you'd like to see in Adobe products, please let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of this week's video. Please make sure to like, share, comment and subscribe. If you would like to check out some of my other videos, you can watch these suggested ones. And if you would like to support me that little bit extra, you can buy me a coffee on Ko-Fi. The link is in the description. But with that guys, thank you ever so much for watching and I'll see you next week. Bye!